here because there's so much more to cover. Is there any part of this 9 times around the planet thing where any part of the world, regardless of where that might be, geographically speaking, that would not be susceptible to the 9 times of ill winds?
Sure. There's areas that are going to be bypassed by the jet stream because during this particular part of the year they're either influenced by El Nino or other atmospheric events. And so, for instance, we don't see a whole lot for what's described as Oceania, all of the island chains from the Philippines north through to Hawaii. Mostly that appears to be unaffected. Big areas of South America and Central America are not affected. A great deal of what we're showing is more or less a northern hemisphere event, although it will come down and go across what we describe as the Middle East. It'll hook around and go across the Mediterranean, Northern Africa, Middle East, and then do the same path 9 times. From what I've been told meteorologically, that's about 18 weeks in a standard jet stream pattern. So, yeah, there would be vast areas that are not going to be affected. For instance, the Bering Strait area between Siberia and Alaska is going to be heavily affected because of the climate, but Siberia on one side and most of Canada on the other are going to be missed.
Okay. Now, I wonder if that has anything to do with you seeing people, like, I remember a couple of your reports where it talks about all the people leaving the United States.
Yeah, that's a different issue.
Okay.
It may be related, but again, we have a separate set of linguistics that describe what we call a diaspora, a movement of the people.
Right.
Now, this appears at this stage to be more driven by some event out of Terra, which is to say our Earth modeling area, than out of any of the other more social areas such as the populace, where we might get the information about disease or radioactivity. Although one could certainly see radioactivity being a force to move you, it wouldn't necessarily chase you from Texas to Canada.
Right.
However, Earth changes might well do that, either in the sense of these floating holes in the magnetosphere that allow basically burning actinic rays in at what's known as UVC that would kill all the crops and would fry you if you were out there in 5 minutes or something like this. That might shift you north if these were not effective over Canada. There's other issues such as the temperature ranges and this kind of thing. And the issue for us, too, is such a large movement of humanity, as is indicated within our data, is not a very rapid kind of a thing. It doesn't happen all in a week. So it may be fairly rapid in the sense of only taking a few months, or the impetus might show up one day to the next. Nonetheless, the process will be something of probably months or years as people migrate north if they're being driven by climatic effects. Now, we actually, as bizarre as that may sound, we have near modern time actual historical processes that occurred that are just like that, and we can say, yes, this has happened to humanity before. And we noticed that there was this fellow who ran a nice little tribe in the Mongolian region, and his name was Temujin. And he found himself in a climate change situation, and he had to get his tribe moving. And along the way, they encountered other tribes that were also in the same climate change issues, and they all banded together. And they started getting larger, and they got some more tribes, and they kept moving and moving because they were being chased by drought and terrible conditions that were forcing their lifestyle to radically alter in one single year. And it led to what later became Genghis Khan and the Mongol horde invasion that swept all over into Europe. And really, it was a reaction to climate change. And so it can happen that rapidly, that you get to the point where you have vast armies of people on the move. But in this day and age, I don't think it would happen quite the same way as tribe-to-tribe movement. It's going to be a lot more bizarre because we'll have both federal intrusion as well as federal intrusion breakdown to consider. But nonetheless, it does appear that at this point there's some kind of Earth-related changes that are going to be the larger driver for that, as opposed to the other components such as the ill winds.
Okay. Now, here we are at the 1 minute before we take our long break, and just obviously way too fast. There are a few questions that came in that are pointedly to this latest report. So when we come back at the top of the hour with you, Clif, we're going to get into some of those and answer some of those questions as we go through the rest of your report. All right, everyone, welcome back. What a fantastic show. What a busy, busy, busy time we're having here. Lots and lots of people here, so I'm going to make mention. Please go to cosmicdimensions.com if you're having trouble listening. We have a tendency when we have such wonderful guests on like Clif to really blow up the bandwidth. There's that dirty word. There's that dirty word, Clif. Bandwidth. Can you say that?
Yes, very expensive stuff.
Yes, and here at Journeys, we would love to be able to incorporate some better bandwidth as well. The cost of that is a $250 a month minimum charge for just a partial upgrade so that we do not have connection issues for anyone. So, that being said, anyone would like to sponsor the show, help to donate, that would be just absolutely awesome. So I'm just throwing that out there to the universe. There you go.
There you go.
That's my plug. All right. Now, getting on with, there's so much information. First of all, I want to get back to this flu thing. I have a lot of people talking about this flu thing and this flu vaccine thing going on. Here's my opinion. Cliff, you can certainly add to it, and then we're going to move off this topic.
Okay.
Because I don't want to beat a dead horse, obviously. My opinion, and this is how I'm wording it, my opinion is the flu shot is probably worse than catching the flu. That's my opinion, and for whatever it's worth, there is a lady out there, Jane Burgermeister. They're posting her information on the website. She's extremely knowledgeable about what it is and what it is not. She's done her research. She's done her homework. She's got some fantastic facts, so I would suggest you looking up Jane Burgermeister and that whole thing that's going on with that.
And make up your own mind.
Yes.
There is something to be aware of, though. The human body will accept pig parts. We've had swine heart valves, this kind of thing. They don't have much in the way of rejection issues, right? This has bearing on the vaccine because anytime you attempt to create a vaccine that goes against the same kind of proteins that our bodies usually accept, you're basically attacking your own immune system. I've had some information from some vegetarian physicians that say they would never take anything that was a vaccine against any swine product or disease simply because the swine proteins so closely replicate some of the key proteins in the human body that it's not possible for your immune system to differentiate. So therefore, it's just not a wise idea. And at a macro level, that makes a lot of sense. Look what happened the last time we had a swine flu vaccine and how it took out 4 times as many people as the disease. So personally, I wouldn't accept it. It's an absurd idea. And, you take care of yourself physically, and especially in the northern hemisphere, watch your vitamin D levels. That can't be stressed enough. Vitamin D is a toxic substance, however, at extraordinary levels, so you can't take too much. You have to be aware of this. You got to be smart about it. Don't be stupid. But vitamin D is probably a better preventative because it certainly is indicated in terms of the cycles of vitamin D. Chemtrails come along, you get less sunlight, your body gets a little weak because of the vitamin D and its component or its constituent in your immune system. So if you did things right, you probably stand better chance of riding through the swine flu, even if you get it at a much reduced level, than going through the vaccine route.
I agree. And there's so many homeopathic and natural remedies out there that also assist.
And we also have the lying pharma to worry about here. It's already come out that homeless people are used as tests in Poland, and the statistics just say we can't find those homeless people when in fact they died.
That's right.
So under the circumstances, it's like, no, I don't trust these big corporations.
No, and again, there's lots on that whole pharma thing, and again, that's not the topic.
No, and this is a personal opinion that I don't trust these big corporations. I've worked for some of them.
Yeah, same here. I'm feeling what you're putting down there. So let's move on. Let's. Where would you like to take the next aspect, knowing that we've got one more segment here? Here. How about let's talk about the dog poet?
Sure. And that real strangeness. Yeah. Yes. Now that's a tricky one because we can't be. That's one of those instances where we can't be too forthcoming.
Right.
Because we don't want to reveal or participate or create a feedback loop that endangers this individual. But apparently there's going to be a rather visible, that is to say, near global personality that will arise as a result of, or out of the chaos of this coming fall and in through next year that we'll all think of as later as like a central figure to the humanitarian revolution against the powers that be. And this individual is shown as having remarkable power in, let's just say, the entertainment field, but we're not talking an entertainer, okay?
Right.
We're talking somebody who's going to be able to use their particular talent as a motivating factor for humans. And this individual is described in various ways, but one of the key factors that we'll all recognize this individual by will be the level of individual personal suffering that is involved there. So very much in our viewpoint, very much an admirable being that has arisen to a particular level of mindset, if you will, as a result of years of suffering.
Okay.
Okay, now, the impact on this is going to be really shocking. I mean, to the point where we think that we'll actually see exhibited, probably in some of the monarchist states, maybe Belgium and England, this kind of thing, where we'll actually see the words from this particular individual banned.
Interesting.
And once we start seeing them ban the contents of, and I won't go into the particular media.
Sure.
Yeah, then we'll know we're onto that particular track. However, it should be a rather short and very, very meteoric rise to global awareness. That is, as we get into the chaos and everything starts becoming a little bit really strange, there will be this central point that stands out that, this guy really understands, or this woman, we just are not going to say sex on this gender, that this particular person stands out as a stellar encapsulator of our common experience, if you will.
So, you see, there's humanity, as we understand it in this moment, does have some saving grace here in some ways.
I wouldn't put it that way. Not a savior.
No, I said
not even
some
using
saving
those words.
Grace. I didn't say that person was our savior.
Yeah, I would say that you have somebody whose grace is going to be an outstanding feature that we'll recognize. Yes.
Right. So grace is an extreme word, and it is extremely profound for my
Sure,
my
and
senses.
I'm using that exact definition, that level of profundity. I would say somebody who walks in Shibumi would get the idea across to the Japanese-speaking population. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So we've covered the dog poet. Let's talk a little bit. Obviously, we want to get into. We talked a little bit about the powers that be and some of their stuff that comes up. Would you like to present some more information on some temporal markers, what's happening coming up? Like we've talked a little bit about what's coming up on the equinox, but obviously the devaluation of the dollar, et cetera, and so forth. If we could get into that just a little bit.
Sure. Actually, we're seeing examples of it today. I guess yesterday or today, the dollar hit a new low this year against the basket of indices, basket of currencies index. But basically, it's toast. It's on its way out. It's just a matter of something for us all to live through. It's going to be rather nasty. It's going to cause widespread social stress. It'll bring two phenomena that will be fairly acutely recognized: a huge social paradigm shift at the lower level and giant corporate bankruptcies at a higher level that will send giant waves of unemployment, one influencing the other. As more people become unemployed, we're going to have to shift around and do things in a different manner, and so our social mores, that is to say the ethics by which we operate, as a collective are going to change, and I suspect things like open squatting, that is to say an honest person goes on in and says, I'm going to squat this house, any objections, that kind of a deal. I suspect those are probably less than